morning, 6 o'clock Central African Time. This is Kusile Breakfast Show. And thank you for joining us on our show. You can also watch the show on our YouTube page, Eswatini TV. I'm not alone. I'm with my co-host, Eswatini. How do you do this morning?
Doing very well, Lulu. How about you?
I'm well. I'm great.
Listen, Lulu, starting this morning on 15 degrees. Yesterday, we started the morning on 6 degrees. Yeah. I'm really worried about the way my temperatures are operating these days. Yeah, my extremes on both ends. Very polarized changes. We hope we will adapt. Our bodies are agile. But it is a very good morning from ourselves to you, wherever you are. It is an exciting morning yet again this Thursday morning. We're approaching the end of the week, Lungelele, and that means we're approaching the secondary elections very soon. You spoke to Mbonisi Pembe this week, and the build-up to the secondary elections is very exciting. Laba aspiring ekutheni bangene kuleto tikhundla tebuholi letikhankaselwako.
Yeah. And gokhumbuda nje ukuthi special voting sitaba isimhla ka-26 September bese ukuthi lona likhetho lolukhulu libe mhla ka-29 September. We're hoping ukuthi kutabe kulholide kepha ke sisamele the official announcement from government.
Yeah, but on the official day of the secondary elections, Eswatini TV will be broadcasting everything that will be happening essentially konke nje lokutabe kwenteka etinkundleni cishe nje tonke telive lapho sitafinyelela khona, but be rest assured ukuthi titawo batinengi at least 90% coverage nangabe sitabe sihlulekile, and you know we're always bringing you the best in terms of coverage for national events, so do stay tuned, and we hope that Amaswati will be going out there to vote ngeti nombolo ngebuningi baba. Otherwise, let's get to today's program.
All right, on the show today mukeli sitabe sikhulumisana nebaka World Vision luhlelo ke lenhlangano World Vision Eswatini lebeli icuba emaphalaleni selofike emaphethelweni after 24 years. We'll be joined by Lungile just to reflect on the organization's impact on the community in the past 24 years on issues of water, sanitation and hygiene. Mkhulu ngomsebenzilo wale nhlangano lapha eVeni kubekisa nje esikoleni se-Welcome Primary School. For years learners had been juggling classes and fetching water for the school, and also compelling the school to be an inappropriate learning environment. The school would pause class sessions so that the learners would fetch water in containers. So sikhulumisana naye Lungile communications and campaign manager ka World Vision usichazela nje ngemsebenzi World Vision lawendile emaphalaleni loku sekavalile. Lokuvelile nje itolo emsebenzini wekuvalelisa World Vision ukuthi inhlangano World Vision ifake imali lenga 180 million emalangeni kuthuthukisa yona inkundla yasemaphalaleni.
Wow, 180 million emalangeni is a lot of money. We do hope ukuthi vele sivesa lapha kulenza usitawuthuthuka leti mali ke nato tingwa khwabaniswa. Kanti ke saqhubeka nalo luhlelo itolo sibone litiko la ka Commerce Industry and Trade lenda umsebenzi lo muhle kakhulu whereby induna yalo Lungelele Manqoba Khumalo ulonche the economic study of the contribution of copyright to the Eswatini economy, particularly focusing on the creative industry. The minister also unveiled the Copyright Society Secretariat. The Secretariat in a huge task of transparently working for the tangible benefit of the creative members of the Copyright Society. They will need the support and cooperation of the public as the ultimate user of copyright works. Quite an interesting development, especially for the creative industry, because some of these things are things that they have been complaining about for quite a long time. So we are thrilled to learn Gutsi Litigo Hinzabaleli Sugumele Eturu Lena, but it has so many pillars that we need to, dive into and unpack and further this kind of conversation. We will be joined, therefore, by Dr. Kelkolo Lulu, who is the Intellectual Property Registrar under the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, just to, further unpack this development so that we understand how it's going to essentially help all the creatives in the country at Nzabeni Dayo intellectual property. That will happen later on the show today. Don't go anywhere.
All right, at this moment, let's take a look at your leading stories from the Mapepanzaba 8 lomhla kungilesine. Okay, sicacala nge-Times of Eswatini this Thursday morning. Letamba Mbili, aspiring MP, Kalachane's house, petrol bombed. He suspects attack linked to elections. And APC says that would be unfortunate and also appeals for tolerance, patience, free and fair elections. More on that story on page 2. Letting in Tamba Mbili, owing pupils sent home. The minister says parents should pay up. Kulenyele hamba embili eMaswati, students return to Morocco in limbo. Kuletinye hamba embili, drugs shortage, 3 major hospitals, theaters affected.
Ya kanzi-ke kutemidlalo kunesithombelana lesiveta tihlole tijabule kakhulu with a headline accompanying that photo. Let's see, beyisukile showing for fans clubs as PLE earns over 500,000 emalangeni. This one speaks to the Premier League of Eswatini, which has reportedly made over 500,000 emalangeni after deductions in the recently ended 2023 PLE Trade Fair Cup. Reports such as more than 1 million emalangeni was collected in the 7 days of that tournament. Kanzi-ke kuletinye, Wesleyan's players are back at training as Manzini Wanderers players have reportedly returned to training after shunning the team's activities for almost a week. On another one, Sihlangu faced Libya in World Cup qualifiers. Kuphumile fixture le vetalapha. Some of the matches lana dates that are announced. Sihlangu sitawudlala South Africa, sidlale Libya, sidlale futhi Cape Verde. Kanzi-ke kuye kugcina nje leqhamuka on the international front. Juventus can tear Pogba contract if the full story is found. Good Times of Eswatini.
All right, you're leading headlines from the Eswatini Observer. It was a memorial service. Yeah, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. There's a picture there. Lapho khona bebafika ku memorial service yakhe labeyicubeka. And sinasibukela ithamba embili nurses on health crisis. We have lost hope. Patients turned back as drug shortage worsens. Progress being made to address situation ngikusho kwaMinister. Asibukela ithamba embili Eswatini assure SADC of dialogue. Minister waiting for TLC oxygen certificates and asibukela about my elections bring on accountability tool, says candidates.
Here are the leading sports headlines on the Eswatini Observer. With 4 days to go in Momo Cup voting, fans are now left with only just 4 days to vote for their teams in the Momo Cup voting exercise. And while that is still developing, Ernest Mavuso has broken silence, and Zabeni Yegwegutsi lenders broke his heart. They broke his heart, and they fired him for winning, which is quite interesting, firing someone for winning. On another one, defiant Wesleyans are ready for Nsingizini Hotspurs. Those are the leading sports headlines on Eswatini Observer this morning.
As well as Eswatini Daily News, this Thursday, the Look Commission oxygen purity below WHO standards. Negotiable statements let's go Minister. Government takes steps to understand copyright contribution to economy. 2 life-term imprisonment for Liswati Facebook rapist.
Kutemidlalo, Eswatini Daily News, it's Sikali boost for Green Mamba. Full story is found on page 21. On another one, Bishop Lukele garnishes Wanderers through his lawyers. Former Mbabane Swallows president Archbishop Begi Lukele has claimed that Manzini Wanderers 100,000 Emalangeni MTN League participation fee for 2023-2024 season as a result of the outstanding 200,000 Emalangeni the Hub Giants owe him. Kanzige Yekzina comes from the international front where Bellingham revels in free roll for England.
All right, those are your leading headlines. It's 10 minutes after 6. Let's take a break. Spain, it is about Eswatini.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eveni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba letentiya ngaleso sikhatsi tindzaba letide magama laqosheme letitsembekile letitsinza tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki, tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo netemhlaba wonke jikelele. Sinilethela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhathi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulo msakato siphinde sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letiqhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lowutilethelwa ngumsakato wetitfombe iEswatini TV.
Kwalamuhla siphinde sikwamukele ehlelweni sibuke nathi tindzaba. Indvuna yelitiko letakhiwo netekutfutsa sikhulu Ndlala Uhlaza Ndwandwe ithi live leSwatini nele Mozambique angazuza kakhulu etinhlangothini letinyenti uma kungathuthukiswa tekutfutsa naletichumanisa lamave lamabili. Indvuna beyikhuluma nayicocisana netinsatheli talo msakato mayelana netindzaba letitsingitfwa tisebenti letisetulu ematikweni etekutfutsa kulamave lamabili emhlanganweni lobe ubanjelwe ehotela le-Happy Valley eZulwini. Indvuna ithi letindzaba titawuphetsa ngekuthi yona nemlingani wayo waseMozambique Matthias Magala basayine logo labangakusebenta bese-ke lokunye bakwendlulisela ebandleni letindvuna tembuso ukuthi tikubusise kodwa-ke kusentshetwe kufikwe emaphethelweni.
Indvuna yelitiko letakhiwo nekuthutha ithi lo mhlangano walamatiko alamave lamabili umcoka kakhulu njengoba ungenelwe na indvuna yetekuthutha eveni leMozambique Matthias Magala.
Lebe kwendeka itolo sitimela besifika nasifika eborder kwehle bashayeli bakithi kugibele bangale sichubeke sitimela siyembili lokho bekulahla isikhathi lesiningi nalokwanaloko kugcine kuvunyelwana ukuthi cha sitimela nje nasuke eMozambique asihambe singene eSwatini siyofika la siyothulula khona umthwalo sihati ukuthi sifunza sonke neAfrika yonke ibheke ukuthi leti tekutfutsa tihlangane tibebete tikhala lapha nalapha. Lapha nje sinenzaba emaPorto Corridor MR3 umgwaco wakithi losuka eNgwenya uye kaLomahasha. Lokunye nako le sikhulumisana ukuthi lo mgwaco awuvuthwe ube muhle ngala ngaseSwatini nangale ngasemaPorto.
Indvuna yetekuthutha eveni leMozambique Matthias Magala ithi tekuhamba kahle kwempahla kanye nebantu balamave lamabili ngona kutawusita ukuthi athuthuke kutemnotho kanye nasebudlelwaneni lanabo. Tinhlangothi lekutawuthuthukiswa kusebenta kwato emkhatsini walamave lamabili tifaka ekhatsi kwakhiwa kwendzawo yinye yekugcoba tincwadzi tekuphuma nekungena eveni ema-one-stop border post kulungiswa kwemigwaco umgubudla wetentuthuko wemnyaka wa-1996 lofaka lamave lamabili kanye nalelo laseNingizimu Afrika. Etindzabeni teSwatini TV kubika Mbongwa Dube eZulwini.
Indvuna yelitiko letemabhizinisi nekutsengiselana Manqoba Khumalo isukumise isigaba sesibili selicwaningo lolutawutfolisisa kutsi luhlangothi lwemakhono lufaka lokunganani emnotfweni welive i-creative industry. Indvuna isukumise lo msebenti ithi lo lucwaningo lutawusita kucubungula kutsi ngukuphi kwesekeleka lokudzingekako kute-ke kuvele tisombululo nekubuka emakhono langakhona kwakha ematfuba emsebenti lapha eveni.
Luhlangothi lwetemakhono emaveni yangesheya lufaka lokulishumi ekhulwini 10% emnotfweni walamave lafaka ekhatsi emave alabamhlophe. LeSwatini lisemkhankasweni wekubuketa kutsi loluhlangothi lungenta umehluko longanani emnotfweni wakuleli loku live litakwenta ngekucinisa imitsetfo levikela imisebenti yalabo labanemakhono. Indvuna yelitiko letekutsengiselana Manqoba Khumalo ithi ke hulumende utibophelele kwesekela lemisebenti letawuletha umehluko ekuthenini labanemakhono batfole inzuzo lebhekekile.
The study that Dr. Lulu spoke to will help us to better understand a few things. It will give us a detailed report on how much copyright contributes to the GDP as a nation. It will also give us anecdotal evidence that tells us the volume of work that we produce and trade in the arts world. Concrete data will also dispel any misconceptions as well as reinforce genuine belief so that we are able to make well-informed interventions of support to this economic activity. Lastly, as stated before, there are a lot of jobs that intersect with IP. The study will assist with identifying and supporting those jobs and the sectors which benefit from government support until they are able to stand in competition with the world's best in the corporate job market.
Dr. Celixolo Dludlu lo buke lihlangothi lokuvikela imisebenti yebantfu labanemakhono etiko uthi live litawusebenzisana nebeluhlangothi leWIMPO kanye ne-ARIMPO lokungibona ke baceceshe labo labatawenta lolucwaningo lapha eSwatini. Litiko etinyangeni letengcile letfuleke libandla le-Copyright Society Board. Etindzabeni kubika Sondomlangeni nginaThemba Shabangu eMbabane.
Inhlangano ye-World Vision ifake imali lenganga 180 million emalangeni emisebentini yekutfutfukisa inkhundla yasemaphalaleni etinhlangothini tetekuhlandeka kanti-ke netemfundo kanye nemisebenti yetenhlalakahle nanato tibaliwe. Maphalane lomkhulu etiko letinkhundla noNhlanhla Dlamini uthi le misebenti uhulumende sewutawuchubeka nayo yonke njengoba-ke imcoka ekutfutfukiseni eMaswati. Dlamini bekakhuluma emahhovisini yaka-World Vision emaphalaleni lapho le nkampani bethula le misebenti lefaka ekhatsi nalesakhiwo.
Inhlangano i-World Vision seyucedzile umsebenzi wekutfutfukisa sive sasemaphalaleni lesingetulu kwa 19,000. Kwephetha kwalomsebenzi kusho ukuthi ke litiko letinkhundla selitawuchubeka nayo lemisebenti lefaka ekhatsi imisebenti yekuletha emanti lahlandekile, imisebenti yetemabhizinisi kanye naleminye. Indvuna yelitiko letinkhundla beyimelelwe ngumfana Nkosithandzile. Achaza ngalomsebenzi mapanane lomkhulu etiko letinkhundla nekutfutfukiswa kwato noNhlanhla Dlamini uthi ke tinini temakhosi tende umehluko lomkhulu kutentfutfuko.
Uningi lasendele kona silive besibuka nje lamanye ema-projects lamanye setawuchubeka siyowabuka. Usifundzisile kakhulu lesive salamaphalaleni kuthi sitisebentele, usinikile emakhono, benta lonke lihlobo lwemsebenzi lolukhona.
Umphathi wenhlangano yaka-World Vision kuleli Thina Mukunda uthi ke le nhlangano seyicedzile imigomo lebeyitibekele wona kutfutfukisa lo mmango.
We are leaving behind a very empowered community. We have worked with this community in the areas of water and sanitation. We have left behind over 5 water schemes with around 220 water points in the community.
Sikhulu Mashika wemphakathi wasemaphalaleni ukhuthathe sive kuthi silondvolode lemisebenzi kanye naletakhiwo.
Ngiyacela lakini ukuthi iSwatini ngiyo le. Kude le iSwatini lesinayo. Kude lenye lesinayo. World Vision nje nakahamba la ude liduma.
Le nhlangano ishiya imisebenzi lefaka ekhatsi ema-feedlot, timbuti telihlobo, kanti ke nebantfwana labangu-1,323 bakhonile kubhalisa timphepha tebuve kuleminye imisebenzi. Tindzabeni kubika Sondomlangeni nginaThemba Shabangu emaphalaleni.
Kutawukuba ngilabaphethe tincwadzi leti bavumelako kuphela labatawungena emagcekeni yalapho kutabe kubanjwe khona lukhetho lolukhetsekile lelatiwa ngele-special voting. Loku-ke kushiwo ngilochumanisa sive nelibandla letelikhetfo nemincele yetinkhundla Mbonisi Bhembe uma axoxisana netinsatheli talomsakato.
Libandla libukela indzaba telikhetfo nemincele yetinkhundla eSwatini lisebenta indzaba ukuthi eMaswati lawo latawutfolakala ukuthi angeke yaphumelele kuba khona elukhethweni mhla ka-29 September. Kuthi kucinisekisa njengeba umthethosekelo uveta ukuthi eMaswati wonke akabe nalo lithuba lokuyovota, lilungise ukuthi bona avote ngalo mhla ka-26 kuyo inyoni. bantu ke labafisile ukuba ingcenye yalomsebenzi libandla livetile ukuthi bangativeta ticelo angakafiki nobe kungakendluli uLesihlanu wamhla ka15 kuye September. Libandla lithi aliphindze futhi livete ukuthi nebantu labakhubatekile bangaveta eticelo tabo ukuthi babe ingcenye yawo umsebenzi kule special voting. Nako ke kugcizelela ukuthi kwekuhamba kutawube kulungisekiwe inkundla ngenkundla itabe inayo incola letawukhona kuthatha emaswati aye khona ekuvoteni. Inhlangano nobe emisebenzini lapho basebenza khona bangatibhala ticelo ukucelela lamaswati kubendela luhlu ukuthi bobani labatawo kuba ingcenye yawona lo msebenzi lowo nobe ngemuntu ngamunye bomake lasebakhulelwe lasekumatima nabo bangacela ukuthi babe ingcenye yalo msebenzi lowo. Libandla liyaveta lo ukuthi umuntu uyawuphendvulwa anikwe lemphendvulo ngencwadzi leta uyiphatha aphinza aphathe namatisi wakhe kuyo lendzawo lelibandla itawuliveta ukuthi nguphi lapho sitabe senda khona special voting.
Betempilo baxwayisa sive ukuthi asitinakekele secwaye kuba selangeni sikhathi lesitse njengoba ke emazinga ekushisa abonakala setulu kulamalanga kanti ke kuba selangeni kunebungoti bekuletha tifo letibanga sifo samdlavuza wesikhumba.
Sive sisinakekele isikhumba sabo lokungena hlobo ngoba siyadinga ukuthi lilanga seliyashisa futhi lishisa kakhulu nalamba babane nje se-Highfield so liyavutha and siyatshela ukuthi imisebe yelanga ibanga i-damage kakhulu esikhumbeni. Just le misebe yelanga iyasilimata isikhumba. Isilimata ngokuthi ngokuhamba kwesikhathi umuntu angaba ne-cancer futhi bese isibangela ukuthi sibe nemabala lamnyama lapha nalapha labe kangekho previously futhi ngasibangela ukuguga. So kumqwalo ukuthi sidivikele elangeni. So sisebenzisa ini? Sisebenzisa i-sunscreen. Just lawo mafutha phecelezi i-sunscreen. I-sunscreen yethu-ke iyahluka iye ibhale ukuthi SPF. SPF umele emandla lenawo le-sunscreen kusivikela elangeni. So siyesirecommend-ke ukuthi manje kucale ku-SPF 30 kuya ku-SPF 50. Nako-ke siyigcobisa kanjani i-sunscreen yethu? Siyigcobisa 30 minutes singakaphumi endlini. Just nawe uyageza nje, ugeza ubuso bakho kahle ngentfole gently bese ufaka emafutha i-moisturizer. I-sunscreen ayisi-moisturizer. Futhi uyageza kahle, ufaka i-moisturizer, eduka i-moisturizer yakho so ufaka-ke le-sunscreen. Udla i-breakfast yakho wente konkhulu kwentako ukame wente konke noma sofaka i-makeup la ngetulu kwe-sunscreen but ifuna ihlale 30 minutes esikhumbeni before uphume elangeni. I-mistake lesinye siyende yini? Sigcobisa ebusweni kuphela. Sigcobisa etindzaweni tonke letawuhlatshwa lilanga.
Kubutha imininingwane yalabagulako kanye netifo letahlukahlukene kuyalisita live ekutheni likhona ukuvikela nekulwa kangcono netifo. Lokhu-ke kushiwo ngoNhlanhla Nhlabathi emhlanganweni nalabasebenta tinhlalo tetempilo letahlukahlukene etifundeni takuleli. Umhlangano bewubanjelwe eZulwini.
Lo mhlangano wetisebenti tetempilo kanye naletinye tinhlangothi letisebenzisana nalo litiko letempilo wekuhlatiya leyo mininingwane leseyibuthwe esiveni lesiya etibhedlela takuleli nekubuyeketa tinhlelo tekulwa netifo letivelako naleto lebetivele tikhona.
Lokuhamba phambili lana bo tisebenti tetempilo kanye nalabanye lesisebenta nabo basikolekela information. Sithi singatibuka letinombolo sithi letinombolo tisho ukuthini. Ikakhulu sibuke nje kakhulu ku-HIV, sabuka tekutalana, sabuka bo-TB, sitawubuka nabo malaria. Ngathi nje tonke tifo letikhona bese siyatibuka-ke ukuthi nguphi lapha sinema-challenges khona. Lengingakusho nje kwamanje lesicishe sikubonile ukuthi bantu abathanzi kahle lokusheshe bete etibhedlela. Kangangoba sithi asikhuthade ukuthi uma utiva ungaphili kahle phuthuma emtholampilo. Tifo tabo shukela, tifo tabo high vele siyatibona tiyachubeka tiyakhula futhi. Kangangoba kenyalo sesinjengelitiko sesifuna ukutinaka kakhulu ngoba esikhathini lesiphelile besithi tiphatha kakhulu labadzala. Nyalo lesesinako sokuthola ukuthi nebantwana tiyabaphatha.
Ngeminyaka wa-2015 litiko letempilo lasukumisa luhlelo lwekubhalisa bonke labaya etibhedlela kude umlandvo wekugula kwabo utohlala ukhona kubongcondvomshina baphindze bawuthole noma baya kusiphi isibhedlela kuleli. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Mbongwa Dube ezulwini.
Etindzabeni temidlalo inhlangano ledlalisa imidlalo yematubane lapha eveni ithi emalungiselelo emchudzelwano wembube marathon ahamba kahle kuthi-ke futhi itingijimi letitawuhlangana ikakhulukati endzabeni yetindlela letitawusebenziswa ngito tingijimi pheceleti ema-road markings njengoba phambilini kwabonakala linyenti letingijimi tikhala ngako.
Usele malanga lambala ukuthi umchudzelwano wembube marathon ubanjwe inhlangano ledlalisa umdlalo wamatubane lapha eveni lokungiyo lelungiselela indlela lapho khona kutawengca khona tingijimi ithi konke kume ngemume futhi lemigwaco seyivele ilungele kwamukela tingijimi noma bekunelishintsho lincane kule ndlela letawuhanjwa.
Sifuna nje ukunika isiqiniseko sokuthi tingijimi titawuba kahle emgwaqweni futhi lataba netinkinga khona malungiselelo savela setulu silungisa konke ukuthi ama-markings abe right ne-safety as well nayo is being considered.
Inkampani edlela ndonga lokunguwele phethe lo mchudzelwano ithi tinombolo talabo lababhalisele kungenela umchudzelwano tiyajabulisa.
Tinombolo ngiyasijabulisa kakhulu kwanyalo nje sesengcile mhlambe ngathi bo 2000 but lama corporates sengakacala ngisho nekwabhalisa ngamkhutsata umlaleli ekhaya ukuthi siyacela ungaze ufike lo Friday ungakabhalisi kanti bo-ofisile.
Umchudzelwano walonyaka utawubanjwa mhla ka-1 kule nyanga letako. Lobekele umsakate Eswatini TV temidlalo ngulinda Dlamini kanzombi kuhlanganiswa nguFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Mabhalane lomkhulu wenhlangano yemidlalo wesibhakela lapha eveni Nkosinathi Dlamini uthi noma abashayi bemidlalo wesibhakela labathathu lokunguthabiso Dlamini, Zweli Dlamini kanye naveliswa Magayo baphumile emidlalweni ye-Paris Olympic Qualifiers lebeyibanjelwe eveni lase-Senegal. Kodwa-ke lisekhona lithemba lokuthi bangalitfola lithikithi lekungenela imidlalo yema-Olympics alonyaka nabakhonile kumelela kahle live emidlalweni yema-World Qualifiers letawubanjelwa eveni lase-Italy kanye nelive lase-Thailand eminyakeni lotako kusukela enyangeni yendlovana.
Lithemba lisangakapheli lisekhona lithemba lokudzinga nje ukuthi thina ababuye phinde babuye bachwe bajime ivitimo othambe kahle sikwadi kufola lelo chazo selfola kusinalandzela ama-Olympic Qualifiers alandzelako sikwadi phinde bamikiswe baphinde bamelele balwe bakhona ukuthi ba-qualify. Lenye competition elandzelako itabe ise-Italy from 29 February to 12 March. Lenye elandzelako itabe ise-Thailand 23 May to 3 June 2024.
Dlamini uphinde wachaza ukuthi noma labashayi bemidlalo wesibhakela bakuleli baphumile kule midlalo ema-Paris Olympics 2024 qualifiers eveni lase-Senegal kodwa-ke bakhombe kutimisela.
Ngale mfumbatana ngoba lefundana iyacala kufola lifuba lekudlala ngaphandle. This was her second international fight la kakhomisa khona on a big stage because Olympic it's a big stage, so i-performance yakhe khombisa umdlandla osetulu kakhulu kunakucala ngekhathi agcina khombitha e-India kuma-women championship. Nzele ngazweli nathabiso ngicela bafaka kanye bona-ke sebasile bakhomitha on a big stage very very many time. Ngikhumula kahle eMaswati nje ayadi nesasikhuluma nge-boxing kunathabiso noma ngizweli, so bakhomithile nabo bakhombisile kudlala kahle bayisebenzisile experience yabo.
So ngingasho nje ukuthi sitilungiselele and lithemba lisangakapheli because nga-March we still have another qualifiers which is worldwide. Ngicabanga ukuthi-ke wona ane-advantage lengcono because ku-qualifier 4 instead of low 1. So it was a bit tricky for us, but at the same time besilungiselele for lama games. So ngingasho nje ukuthi sizamile and besitilungiselele for ukuthi siphumelele.
Imidlalo ema-Olympics eveni lase-France edolobheni lase-Paris itawucala mhla ka-26 ide iyophela mhla ka-11 ngenyanga yeNgci eminyakeni lotako. Lobikele umsakate Eswatini TV temidlalo ngulinda Dlamini kanzombi kuhlanganiswa nguFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Asiphahlobethu Market Bongosi sitabuya siqhubeke nehlelo.
Ibandla letelukhetho nemingcele i-Elections and Boundaries Commission bathi sasive ukuthi kuvota ngalokukhetsekile special voting kutawuba mhla tinge-26 kuLesetulu 26 September 2023. Kanti lukhetho lolukhulu lona lutawubanjwa mhla tinge-29 kuLesetulu 29 September 2023. Ngete ngasala nasakha live letfu.
Tifumvota namhla esomveni betingakacondzani nathi. Hawu mngani, usho ngani? Bekukhulunywa befana kuphela, buka nje bekukhulunywa kusoka. Ushiyekile impela mnganami. Angayiva kahle lenzaba.
Phela ngekusoka bobhuti, nanathi bayazivikela kumdlavuza wemlomo wesibeletho. Futhi ukusoka kuyingcenye yetindlela tekuvikela i-HIV even. Kanti-ke naye ibhuti masekasokile, uyativikela kumdlavuza wemvuku.
Uyabona mngani ngishiyeke mbamba. Uyabona babuya kutofundisa betempilo, ngitolalela.
Lo mlayeto ulethelwa litiko letempilo. Kuva kabandi, shayela 2030.
Alright, welcome back. Sakuvusela Naulo Sanzago Sivulela. As mentioned earlier, we will be speaking to Communications and Campaign Manager Lungile Zwane ka World Vision. Njengoba tokumla ukuthi luhlelo lenhlangano World Vision Eswatini lebeliqhuba emaphalaleni enkundleni esemaphalaleni selufike emaphethelweni. After 24 years, we are joined by Lungile to reflect on the organization's impact on the community in the past 24 years. Tindzabeni nje temandi nokuhlanginteka kwato kanene letinye nje tinkinga bebatikhanza mabasafika khona kule nkundla. Mkhulu kumsebenzi walenhlangano lapha eveni kusukela nje yefika ngeminyaka wa 1992. I'm joined by Lungile Zwane ukuchazela nje ngemsebenzi lenhlangano leseyiwendile khona enkundleni yasemaphalaleni lesekuthola ukuthi lamuhla bachubekela khona enkundleni yasempolonjeni lapho khona nakhona bese basebenzile iminyaka lengo-22. Sitafuna ukuva nakhona ukuthi engabe kusebenzeke kanjani. I think lokuvelele nje itolo emsebenzini yokuvalelisa khona enkundleni yasemaphalaleni ukuthi World Vision Eswatini ufake imali lenganga 180 million amalangeni kuthuthukisa leyandzawo. Asikuvusele Zwane sabonga ukuthi benazi nomhla ekseni. Ngombe kusiniketa nje isithombe nje kafishane ukuthi manifika emaphalaleni 24 years ago yini lena ikhanza besikanjani lesimo tinginga nje lena tikhanza letibhekene nayo umango wasemaphalaleni.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu sibongele lithuba lesitholile kuSwazi TV. Sinhlangano ya World Vision masifika ngalo 1999 kwaqala kweba ne-assessment nje kubuka lesimo ukuthi sikabi kanganani and siniketwa imali World Vision USA lo support office yethu for le project yasemaphalaleni. Lokwatholakala ke ngiko lesimo sekuthi bekise emandi bebancane kakhulu bantu labane access to emandi lahlobile lo ngathi ku within I distance ya 30 minutes kuya nekubuya lokungona kungumgomo ukuthi if sithi bantu bane access to safe water akhashane kanganani. Lokhu ke bekufaka nebantwana engodini ngoba kufuna umntwana ahambe isigaba lesithe ayofuna imandi. La kungavelelwa noma yini la ndleleni letinye tindzawo hamba etindzaweni letingakaphephi. Ukhanze ukuthi futhi bantwana abasitholi nalesikhathi sekudadisha. Ngoba ubuye esikolweni uhamba i-distance lenzeke esikolweni aphinde ahamba i-distance lenzeke yolandza imandi. Bese sekwenda lo mntwana nasesikolweni akasaperformi kahle ngoba uhlale adziniwe akasitholi isikhathi sekudadisha lesanele. Tonke leto inkinga letikhona ngalokuthi ke kube kude kahle nemandi lahlobile kuphindze kube nemthelela ekutheni etifeni ngibekise etifo leti waterborne ngasho njalo bo diarrhea bo bilharzia. So lokho kubanga ukuthi impilo ikakhulukati yabantwana njengoba thina singu-World Vision nje kakhulu inhlitiyo yethu ikulomntwana. So konke lesikwendako sikwenda yes city community as a whole but inhloso yethu sijonge ukuthi kusitakale lo mntwana.
I think ngikutfolile nje mangisabuka nje mhlambe website endo ukuthi vele niyayivakashela lemiphakathi lemeningi. I think nje nangibuka lapha kulesinye isikole lethiwa yi-Welcome Primary School kwavele lokho ukuthi kulesikole leso kuze kuphozwe namaclass bantwana bahambe bayokhe emandi. Ngabe nikubonile indloku kwendeka emaphalaleni?
Emaphalaleni ngete ngasho dikeke ukuthi lokho bekuyinkinga keja vele mangabe kude emandi njoba sikhanze ukuthi tikhona tikola betinawo emandi. Kepha ku I think nje 8 out of 17 bokhanza ukuthi sedinga ukuthi sitiside kuze ke bagcine banawo lawo mandi. But kuningi lo kufike kube i-challenge nje for bantwana makude emandi esikolweni ngoba kuhloba kwesikolo kuba lukhuni. Konke nje lodzinga ukuthi nikwende lokudzinga emandi kupheka baphekele bantwana esikolweni kuba inkinga. So vele kufanele bantwana bese bathiwa hayi aseniyofuna emandi nawo bayofuna enzaweni kumbe lengakahlobi.
I think siselapho nje kulenza bayemandi ingabe bekumadima kanganani nje ngetikhathi temkhuhlane i-COVID-19 ngalokuthi vele lapho emandi bayadzingeka kakhulu mbambake lapho ngoba betempilo bebahlale njalo basecwayisa ukuthi isigeze tandla ngemandi lageletako. Ingabe vele simo besikanjani lapho basitekele kanjani nje bangombango wasemaphalaleni?
Okay, World Vision la kwendile hayi maphalaleni kuphela nje yocishe yonke indzawo la sisebentela khona nanekubambisana nje namadiko ahulumende njengabaka health. Vele lokuthi sisite kuletha emandi info lebese seyibukeka imcwa kakhulu vele ukuthi siyende masinyane kule ikakhulukati etikolweni nasemimangweni nje lokuthi babe nemandi. So tikolo vele besitisita nekuthi sibalethele bo sanitizer sibafakele mandi etikolweni and also make sure ukuthi nemithoyi ikhona ibe nemandi lahlandekile netinsipho. Konke lokho besisite kakhulu sing-World Vision etindzabeni demandi.
Mhlawumbe nje kubuka nje lamanye ama-challenges noma ke ama-issues lenokhanzile khona emaphalaleni noma kumese kungasemaphalaleni kuphela nje kuba ngidiphi nje letinye vele tinkinga letihlangabetana nawo umango mhlambe badzinga kufundiswa nge-GBV badzinga kusitwa lapha nalapha badzinga ukusitwa ngokufundiswa ukuthi backyard gardening ingabe vele mhlambe ngidiphi leto tinkinga letinye lentikhanzile nakhona kuba sita bangummango wasemaphalaleni.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu vele asibuki emandi kuphela sinhlangano ya World Vision ngiyati bantu mabahamba la migwaqweni bavamise kubona kakhulu ema projects ethu water and sanitation. Kepha ke sing-World Vision sinhlangano nje lebuke lenhlala kahle etinhlanganisweni letinyenti siyabuka ne livelihoods and resilience lapho ke sibuke ukuthi labamfu labakhona lamangweni ababe nemathuba ekuthi batiphilise bathole imali leni sifuna lokuthi bakhone kondla abantwana bakhone ukuthengela abantwana ama-uniforms bakhone ukuthi umntwana aphathe naye lo mkhero baye bathi ngumkhero abantwana mabaye esikolweni kwendani lokho kusita nalo mntwana ukuthi angaweli etandleni tanaba labe bese bathengela tincingo babanike imali babendeni ngeke lokuthi wena ungumntala ukhona ukukwenda. So again nalapho inhloso ukuthi kusitakale lo mntwana but umntali akhone to provide for bantwana. bakhela nabo lakhaya noma ngabe ngigogo. So kuloko ke sinato kulolu hlangothi le livelihoods ema communities siyabasita ukuthi babe nema garden schemes, siyabasita ukuthi bafunde ama vocational skills, kungaba kuthunga, kungaba bo electrical, kungaba bo plumbing, kuningi kakhulu lapho sekufaka nale youth njena ukuthi nayo ibe empowered, bakhona ukuthi nabo batiphilise, okhanze ukuthi labanye bahleli ekhaya kodwa umsebenzi but ayibe khona le ndlela yokuthi baphile. Ku livelihoods ke siyasikhuthaze kakhulu nalokuthi bafunze ngetindzaba tekwonga, bakhone amongst themselves bakhe ama groups sekuze kunebantfana ema groups ebantfana as well lesinawo la benda kona lokho ukuthi nabo bafunze konga, bafunze nje financial literacy and bakhone nalokuphila, babe nale mali ukuthi ngikhone ukuthi ithengela lengikudzingile.
Yeah, speaking of financial literacy ngiyakhumbula mangibuka page leno ka Facebook, I think benipostile leminye umfundzi lo se primary ngathi waqala ingadi yakhe nje ekhaya kubo backyard garden, bekathengisa ke bo lettuce ngazothi I think bese nimpostile nje bese kuyi success story. Yes, I save le mali.
So yakhona kutithengela mangabe ukhanuka i-brand letsite esicathulo whatever it is la kudzingile akasadingi kuyocela umuntu lomdzala ekhaya.
Ingabe lokho vele labese bayakwendela abamfana kubasita kanganani lona nje lo wakucala lo bekayithengisa nje lettuce yakhe naloyo kumsita kanganani yena umndeni wakhe ukuthi naye akhona kuwondla naye nje ezakhula afunze kabanti nge-financial literacy?
Kubasita kakhulu kwanabo bayasho ukuthi uyati sengiyati ukuthi kumcoka konga imali lenginayo, kumcoka ukuthi ngimultiply nale mali leyo lencane lekhona kuze ichubeke ingiside. So kuyabasita kakhulu, kuphindze kubasita nalokuthi tidzingeko tabo naletikhona la khaya ukhanze ukuthi so ukhanze soyakhona nekusita naye, but ikakhulu siyasifunela umntali kube nguye lokhona to provide for le family. Kukhumbule ukuthi asikhuthathi uzumbana kumbe ngathi sekune child labor ngasho njalo.
I think kukahle nje because nje bekakwenda sesevale tikolo. I think njengoba naye nje kuba yimvele msitako letamkhipha busy ukuthi akwende. I think lenye indzaba leyitsinzile nje kancane elungile ngeyendzaba ukuthi kule mimango lena kunengakhulu lokuhlupheka le poverty lo bese ukhanze ukuthi labanye bamfana sebawelela etandleni tikabi tikhanze sebathandzana nebamfla abadzala sebofaka nasengotini child sex trafficking. Ngavele mhlambe leto nje tikigaba leto netibona tenteka kanganani, tivame kanganani nje lemakhaya?
Sinetinhlelo lesinato letibukete nje HIV prevention kunele kusasa ngelethu eshiselweni lapho sisupportwa ngu-USAID under PEPFAR. Siphinze sibe ne-halting the spread of HIV lapho sisupportwa ngukhango. Letinhlelo leto ngila sibona khona kakhulu ukuthi ikhona lenkinga yokuthi bantwana bawele etilingweni because of vulnerability yakuthi so tikhanza vele so jolana nangibabe obhudi lo mdzala kakhulu kunaye just because ukhona kumnika imali. Sometimes it's just ukuthi ukhona to provide i-meal ngoba mangabe lesimo sikabi kakhulu even that kuyaba compromise. Lesikhanza ukuthi vele bese baba nalokuthi ba depend on labantu. So one of the things we do under lama projects lawa ethu ukuthi babe empowered to be less dependent on anybody but kakhulu on men. Bathi lokuthi uyati ngingatimela again ke nakhona bafundziswa to build their resilience, bafundziswa lama livelihood skills in different skills but lokuthi nje ngikhone ukuthi ngati ukuthi uyati ngingakhona kusave ngicale lokhu sendeni or even bathole ama startup kits for businesses or ba enroll for vocational skills, ba enroll for bo internship depending ukuthi lo mfana ufuna i-employment or ufuna yena i-business. So kuba nguye asimforce nguye lothi mine lengathanza kukwenda ngiloko bese simchanela ke and support towards that if kudzingeka ukuthi athole some form of startup support siyabasida under lama projects lengiwasho. But ikakhulu nanaba lo khanza ukuthi ke u drop out esikolweni ngekuthi maybe ube pregnant or bekusekude imali ekhaya. There are usually many reasons. Siyaye sikhuthade ke nalapho ukuthi lo funako abuyele esikolweni ukhanze ukuthi uyabhadalelwa under nje le halting the spread of HIV project. Leni sifuna ukuthi lo mfana angahlali la ekhaya atikhanze vele ngoba naloko kuyabenda ukuthi bawele kulama kulo kuthi so jola nemuntu lomdzala kunaye loku labanye naloko swela kulula kakhulu ke lokuthi bese sothi khanza makuthiwa kuvele lithuba la ku social media le employment kanti maybe some of it seku fake sekubalidela ke kule sex trafficking because bami laba trafficker in most cases it's either for labor or bafuna kubenta ema sex slaves.
Okay. Kukuva nje uchaza nje lungile kuyacaca lokuthi vele emkhulu umsebentile enwentile emaphalaleni. I think ibekhona nje ne-impact lebekhona kusosiva sasemaphalaleni. I think umfanga ngathi buda nje ukuthi okay senihambelani senikhonile yini kuwafeza onke ema-goals eni ukuthi ingabe nanso kumaphalaleni ngikuphi mhlambe letinye tindzawo la niyovalelisa khona ngidipha letinye tindzawo la niphindze niyocala khona umsebenzi wenu lomuhle.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu. Yes, emaphalaleni nalele tinye indzawo lesitawu valelisa kuto kulamalanga ikakhulukati ngishido ngathi sisupportwa ngu-World Vision USA emaphalaleni. So ema-support offices mabasni who fundraise for us and then provide le mali yekusupporta lama communities ukhanza ukuthi banika 15 years in a community. That's the project life. Kuyendeka ke ukhanze kunjengasemaphalaleni ukuthi ungathi sisengaka achieve kahle kumbe konke lebe singafisa achieve bese kuba ne extension in this case njengoba wadi ukugcine ku 24 years because of such reasons. Makcala njena besibuke bo education, livelihoods and resilience, HIV and AIDS, agriculture, water and sanitation, but ke 5 years ago kwase kubukeka ukuthi assess focus on just 3 areas or technical programs. Lapho sito focus asito wadi usiphuma sishiye impact lebonakalako. Kwaba ke ukuthi focus ku water and sanitation, le livelihoods and resilience kanye ke nabo child protection. Lenga kusho nje ukuthi kuma khaya lesingathi asane access to sanitation facilities imitoyile kahle ma VIP toilets masbuka around 2016 only 27.9% lebe banawo but namuhla sishiya back 97.8%. So almost the whole community. Yes, there are those small pockets la sithemba ukuthi because sebafundisekile bangummango bato encourage athi wonke umuntu abe nawo umthoyi nalo fikako siyasikhuthaze ukuthi nalo fikako atokhonda akube nje i-prerequisite ukuthi kwekucala nje lokwendako wakha umthoyi ungakamisi nale structure selikhaya. Ngoba lokho kuyabhebhetela tifo mangabe kude imithoyi nekuhlandeka kuba inkinga nje for ummango wonke. Ngibuke access to clean water le within 30 minutes lebengikhuluma ngayo bese ku 2004 maphalaleni beka 24 around 25%. Nyalo uthi I think it's about 67%, but ku evaluation yethu ya 2021 beku 57.7%. So kusenemsebenzi lodzingeka kwendeka lapho. We are not at 100% as we'd like, kepha ukhona lo mehluko. Lokho kokwende ukuthi ne prevalence yemsheko kubantwana ikakhulukati laba phansi kweminyaka lena 5 yehla from 19.7% nga 2004 nyalo it's at 6%. Yes, 6%, it's lower than 19.7 kepha siyafisa lokuthi sifike ku 0. So lokho kutoyendeka if nalamandi seka 100% ukuthi bonke sebathola imandi lahlandekile. Ngiyambekisa nje nga some of those things. Kukhona nekuthi batali noma laba labanakekela abantwana whether ngogogo ngandi lo hleli nemvana le bafundziseke netindzaba tekuhlanteka kugeza tandla nako konke because lokho kuyasita nako kule tindzaba temsheko. I think besikhanza 2016 lebe ngathi practice abe around 31%. Nyalo sishiya bathi 71%. So there is an improvement nalapho. Kuningi tikolo atitfole emanti, sanitation facilities, bafundziseka kwacalwa wash clubs webantfwana bafundziseka ngetindzaba tekuhlanteka kugeza tandla kutsi uma uphuma emthoyi kumcoka ngani, how do you wash your hands, bakufundzisa konke lokho.
Okay. No, kuyavakala sibonga sibonge nje nemsebenzi londiwa ngiyo inhlangano eWorld Vision. Mbukele sotivele ukuthi mkhulu umsebenzi londiwa ngiyo eWorld Vision lapha Eswatini sachazela nje lapha lungile ukuthi dineng noke mhlambe manje ngama projects laba wendile ngaphansi kwenkundla yasemaphalaleni lomuhla ke bayovalelisa enkundleni yasempolonjeni bado bese ke baqala nemisebenzi yabo kuletinye inkundla lapho khona kudzingeka lusito lwenhlangano eWorld Vision. Let's take a break, spin a traffic update.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line, controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide. At the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones, we did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
Welcome back. You're still watching Kusile Breakfast Show. Simakulu kuthini ihlalisene nathi besicatha nje ukukhulumisana na Lungile Zwane waka World Vision ngomsebenzi labayendile enkundleni yasemaphalaleni nefaya ekhathi bona nje tindzaba te water and sanitation netindzaba nje tekufundzisa abantwana kakhulukati labasetikolweni ngema backyard gardens kanye nje nekufundzisa sive sasemaphalaleni ngakokuhlukubeteka netinje tinkinga letibhekene nemimango. Kulesikhathi nje sitawubuka sona simo semgwaqo ukuthi khambeka kanjani na Sergeant Gula sekuvusele emgwabani khambeka kanjani emgwaqweni.
Anguvusele Thombeni uvusele umbukelo welihlelo nasibuka simo selitulu ngaphandle kunemoya etindzaweni letiphakeme lokho ke kungilesinye sesitsikabeto ikakhulukati kumshayeli liyawuhamba ngesivinini lesisetulu kakhulu nekuveta nje ukuthi awu umthamo wemoto lona siwubuka emgwaqweni sovele uphakeme nelinana labo labahamba ngezinyawo asendeke isiqiniseko sibashayeli ukuthi siyaqhubeka silandele izimpawu zomgwaqo imithetho yomgwaqo kuyawenda ukuthi kube khona kubambisana nekubeketelelana sisawusebenzisa ke wona imigwaqo kanti ke kulonye ihlangothi sivete ukuthi emaphoyisa sekavele nje akhona emigwaqweni kwenta isiqiniseko sokuthi imigwaqo yethu ngileyo lephephile nalehambekako ngaso tonke indlela nalapho ke wela bakhona abantwana sikhona kwenta isiqiniseko sokuthi ke bayasitakala bewela ngendlela lephephile kwakho ke umshayeli noma ke umsebenzisi womgwaqo uthi lapho ukhona khona wena isiqiniseko sokuthi inzima yakho uyayidlala ikakhulukazi ubeka tona indaba tephepha embili ngaso sonke isikhathi kanti kulonye ihlangothi sivete ukuthi la ikhasi edolobheni laseMbabane sisebenza kahle ke tibane tethu noko ke umgwaqo wethu longsozisa road losuka khona lapha kumanzana traffic settle kuye lapha esikoleni lesikhulu saseMbabane Central leyo mgwaqo loyo ke solo uvaliwe sisebenzisa ke umgwaqo wesikhashana lesivulele wona leke loyo mvumo ukuthi ke ungahamba imoto letinkulu kuleyo ngcingwana leyo ukuthi ke imoto lo atiphambani khona lapho niketana wona emathuba kungaleso sizathu kuphakanyiswe loyo ke stop and go longiyena utasilawula ngendlela tekuniketana emathuba la yawuba ulawo laphephile kanti kumathapha kamanzini lapha enhlangano sisebenza kahle tibane tethu lesingakugcizelela edolobheni lasenhlangano nakhona imigwaqo lengenako na uqhamuka khona isihluthe ungene ekhaya edolobheni lapha ngabo bearing solo uvaliwe leyo mgwaqo loyo unedithole silungisele yona kanjalo nakhona uqhamuka khona ngakamjuda na uqhamuka khona kubohlazi nakuleyo mgwaqo loyo nawo uvaliwe. Kukhuthaza nje kuba kumele ukuthi asinakeni lo mthamo wetimoto lososebenzisa nange umgwaqo loqhamuka lapha eTulu kumahamba. So ubonakala usetulu kakhulu kuyawungena lapha eceleni kwelesonto lema-Muslim. Ngakho-ke asibeketelela nenisa nesiqiniseko sokuthi siniketana wona-ke amathuba layoba ngilapha ephile. Kwesinye tifundza kuyahambeka ngiyo nje imfuyo lesele ibonakala ijangaza emigwaqweni lesenda ukuthi siqhuzelele nakubo bandikati bemfuyo ukuthi abayikhoshishe imfuyo emgwaqweni siyawuphepha sive semaswati ngekwenta kanjalo. Kungaba ngiloko nje kusene sisisela sona sive semaswati lilanga lelisha naleliphephile sisawusebenzisa umgwaqo nani endlini emsakazo simfisele lona lusuku loluhle sisachubeka nemsebenzi yethu. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Sibonga kakhulu Malambule, isikhathi sakho lomhla ekuseni naleyo traffic update le very vivid. Sithembe ukuthi kene bachubet motolo batawucaphela edoti tsikabhedo losoti balile sitabahlule emakethe nasibuya lungelele will give you tindzaba tesingisi as well as international news.
Bongosi egameni lelibandla letelkhetho nemingcele tingudla ngingusihlalo walo libandla sihlanganyela nesive malangeni lamahle kuhalalisela ingwenyama inkosi yethu inkosi Mswati wesithathu minyakeni lamashumi lasihlanu nakuhlanu kanye nelive longana kundiphethe wethu ukuthi lo lingana nabo netinsuku tengwenyama letingu 55 nananathi sisive semaswati sina leminyaka ilengu 55 sesikhululekile ngandiphethe. Siyabonga ke bongosi sisahalalisele makhosi ethu nelive ukuthi nebayitolo lekungibona lesithi te basebenta lelive makhosi ayitolo nesive semaswati sonke sayitolo ngoba lokhu lesesifike lamhla siyasakukhanza lesikuhalaliselako ngilokuchamuka kibo lekubita ke ukuthi ke nathi simaswati njengekukhonjwa indlela makhosi ngosi yelive sichubekeni silibeke live libe ngiloko lekungona lesikukhanzile nathi nalokungcono. Maswati silibandla lelikhetho nemingcele sisahalalisele makhosi nelive ngandiphethe sijinga siphinze futhi siwabongele makhosi ngemsebenzi losetulu eveni welikhetho sisitengcile tigaba tokuqala lebesikito nyalo ke sekuseleke sigaba lesesisetulu ke lokungisona sona ke lesisitawu siniketa iparlamente yethu isinikete futhi emabandla enkundla lekuba ubuchopho ke lobakhiwa induna tetinkundla lekungibona bosihlalo bese ke nabo ubuchopho bemiphakathi benkundla labakha lobuchopho lelibandla lenkundla lekungilona lelisebenzisana kanye neparlamente nahulumende welive lemaswati wonkana. Bongosi emalanga umuntu akandlulise lokuthi umhla ka 2026 we special voting bese ulandzela ke umhla ka 29 September walolukhetho lelukhulu lukhetho lwesibili lesongilona loluyifinal ngalawo magama amalangeni sikhutha lwandle sibongele live ebongosi bayethe wona waphakathi wona ungangezindaba bos.
It's not by the efforts of one, but by the combined efforts of many. You're going to reach people that nobody else can reach. come and light a fire and watch it burn. God's not finished with Africa. In the divine atmosphere of heaven, the Lord will forge in you that which He wants you to do. And the grace to carry the mantle will be upon your life. And God has raised you up for this hour. You can do better than that, Cape Town. Come on.
Welcome back. This is the news. The Minister of Public Works and Transport says Eswatini and Mozambique can reap many benefits if transportation networks between the two countries are improved. The minister said this when speaking to journalists about areas of improvement in the transport sector that are being discussed by officials from the two countries' sister ministries of transport.
The Minister of Public Works and Transport, Chief Dlalihlaza, says the importance of the deliberations by the two countries is signified by the attendance to the meeting of the Mozambican Minister of Transport, Matthias Magala.
Lebekwendeka itolo sitimela besifika nasifika eborder sibekwehle bashayeli bakithi kugibele bangale sichubeke sitimela siyembili lokho ke bekulahla isikhathi lesiningi nalokwanaloko kugcine kuvunyelwana ukuthi cha sitimela nje nasuke eMozambique asihambe singene eSwatini siyofika la siyothulula khona umthwalo siyathi ukuthi sifunza sonke neAfrika yonke ibheke ukuthi leti tekuthutha tihlangane tibebete tikhala lapha nalapha lapha nje sinenzaba eMaputo corridor MR3 umgwaqo wakithi losuka eNgwenya uye kaLomahasha lokunye nako leyo sikhulumisana ukuthi lo mgwaqo awuvuthwe ube muhle ngala ngaseSwatini nangale ngaseMaputo.
The Mozambican Minister of Transport, Matthias Magala, says the improvement of people and goods transportation systems will not only benefit the two countries' economies, but their bilateral relations as well. Some of the areas of improvement that the countries will be working on include one-stop border post, the upgrading of the roads infrastructure, and the Maputo Development Corridor of 1996, which also involves the Republic of South Africa. On the news, I'm Mbongwa Dube in Eswatini.
The Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Manxaba Khumalo, has commissioned the Eswatini Copyright Survey, which seeks to provide a detailed report on how much copyright contributes to the GDP of Eswatini. Minister Khumalo says it's important to account, monitor and evaluate the progress that the ministry has made in creating value in the economy when copyright and IP are given the necessary intentions. The minister was speaking during the launch of the economic study held in Babane.
Intellectual properties intensive industries in developed countries contributes 10% of the GDP. These countries includes the European countries. The Kingdom of Eswatini is looking to explore and develop this space for economic development of Eswatini. Speaking during the economy survey launch, the Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Manxaba Khumalo, says there are a lot of jobs that intercept with IP.
The study that Dr. Lulu spoke to will help us to better understand a few things. It will give us a detailed report on how much copyright contributes to the GDP as a nation. It will also give us anecdotal evidence that tells us, the volume of work that we produce and trade in the arts world. Concrete data will also dispel any misconceptions as well as reinforce genuine belief so that we are able to make well-informed interventions of support to this economic activity. Lastly, as stated before, there are a lot of jobs that intersect with IP. The study will assist with identifying and supporting those jobs and the sectors which benefit from government support until they are able to stand in competition with the world's best in the copyright job market.
The IP registrar in the ministry, Dr. Qelqolo Dludlu, says the second aspect of the survey will explore the commercialization of ownership of copyright works. The Kingdom of Eswatini has put in place the Copyright Act, which seeks to ensure that creatives are able to get economic value of their works. Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Themba Shabango, Mbabane.
It's only those voters who will produce letters of admission to the special voting exercise who will be allowed entry into the voting station on the 26th of September. This was disclosed by Mbonisi Bembe, who is the Elections and Boundaries Commission's Communications Officer. Bembe says the venue for the special voting exercise will be communicated by the Commission in due course.
Libandla libukela indzaba telikhetfo nemincele yetinkhundla eSwatini lisebenta indzaba ukuthi eMaswati lawo lata utfolakala ukuthi angeke yaphumelele kuba khona elikhethweni mhla ka-29 September.
The Elections and Boundaries Commission is working on making a provision for voters who may not be able to vote on the 29th of September. The Commission has set September 26 as the date on which they may cast their vote. Those interested to be part of this special voting have until September 15 to forward their application. The Commission also extends this invitation to persons with disabilities to apply for the special voting exercise. Transport will be available in all Tinkhundla centers to ferry voters to their special voting sites. Companies can apply on behalf of their employees to take part in this special voting, and individuals can also apply. Even heavily pregnant women can apply and be part of this important national exercise. The Commission assures the nation that those who will apply and be granted permission will be given letters to be presented together with individuals' national identity cards at the special voting site, which is yet to be announced by the Commission.
People should take better care of their skin this summer season as the country is experiencing very high temperatures. They should also avoid spending a lot of time in the sun as this may cause extreme sunburn which can lead to severe skin cancer. This was said by Dr. Kusile, who is a dermatologist at the Mabane Government Hospital.
Actually, we have started experiencing very high temperatures. And as we all might be aware, the sun is not very good for the skin, especially if you expose yourself for a long time and between 10 and 3 p.m. That those sun rays emitted from the sun are quite very dangerous for the skin. They might cause skin cancer, they might cause pigmentation of the skin, and premature aging. So we recommend that everyone takes care of their skin. How do they do that? After washing their skin and applying their moisturizer, they should apply a sunscreen with SPF 30 to 50. We do recommend 50, but SPF 30 is also okay. How do you do this? You apply your sunscreen 30 minutes before you leave the house. If you're going to be spending a lot of time in the sun, or if you work in the sun, or you're on holiday in the beach, we recommend that you do reapply your sunscreen every 2 hours. We do discourage skin lightening. Why? Because of the side effects that come with skin lightening. What are these side effects? One, after a long time, because when you start using these lightening creams, you do feel like your skin is light and you're happy because of the lightness, and maybe it becomes your acne pimples, they get better, you're happy with that. But after a long time, the skin then suffers from these creams. One, the side effects of these creams are, one, it will cause dark pigmentation that is very difficult to get rid of. Two, it will cause pimples. At first, you might think that my pimples are getting better, but after a long time, the creams cause pimples. And the other thing is they might cause skin cancer. So we do recommend that people avoid using creams.
The collection and compilation of patients' data and that of different diseases is important as it helps the Ministry of Health to efficiently deal with diseases. This was said by Nhlanhla Hlabati, who is the Strategic Information Officer in the Ministry of Health, when addressing journalists at Happy Valley Hotel, where the Ministry's regional health workers are meeting to review health information data.
The meeting of the Ministry's Health Regional Programs Overseers and other stakeholders is aimed at scrutinizing and reviewing information that has been collected from the country's hospitals across the 4 regions.
The health information is coming from different data sources. It's coming from health facilities, it's coming from other sectors. And we are actually saying data has to be used at all levels. If you are seeing an increase of diarrheal cases at clinic level, talk to that data. If you are seeing an increase of diarrhea at regional level, talk to that data, even at national level. So here, what we have noted as a ministry is that the quality of data that we are getting from our health facilities has improved a lot in such a way that we are saying how best can we then use the data to address the gaps and also to inform policy direction and also programming.
In the year 2015, the Ministry of Health launched a client information management system to, amongst other things, monitor and digitize different ailments of patients in the country's hospitals. Reporting for Eswatini TV, Mbongwa Dube in Ezulwini.
And in international news, bodies were washing ashore in eastern Libya on Wednesday, swelling the death toll from a storm that swept whole neighborhoods out to sea, with thousands already confirmed dead and many thousands more still missing.
Satellite images show the extent of the devastation in Derna, the eastern coastal city inundated by floodwaters after 2 dams collapsed. Whole neighborhoods were swept out to sea.
Unfortunately, half the population, maybe 90%, drowned. My aunt's entire house was destroyed, as was my other aunt's house and my cousin's house. It's genocide.
The streets are covered with mud and rubble from collapsed buildings. Damaged cars dot the coastline, deposited there by the receding floodwaters. Now survivors are digging through the debris and searching for bodies.
We're mass burying bodies. The number of victims that arrived yesterday at the neighboring hospital in the Chiha area is estimated to be about 1,000 dead people, including women, children, men, and the elderly.
There's no time to mourn, and many residents are still in shock. They say it's like doomsday in Derna.
Honestly, a disaster in every sense of the word. This is a tragic situation.
Derna wasn't the only city badly affected by flooding. In nearby Al Baida, eyewitness footage shows the damage caused to the town's hospital. Patients had to be evacuated as staff continue to try and mop up all the water left behind by the storm.
In Libya, the Red Crescent says 10,000 are missing after heavy rain swept away 2 dams, causing massive flooding. The situation in the country has been made worse by the fact that over a decade of political instability has left critical infrastructure in a pitiful state. The country's 2 rival administrators are also complicating relief efforts.
The NATO-backed uprising that ousted longtime dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011 plunged Libya into political chaos that remains more than a decade later. The country is divided between 2 rival administrations, one in the east and one in the west, with each regime backed by various armed militias and foreign powers. The West is home to the Tripoli-based Interim National Unity Government, which is recognized by the UN and led by Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Dbeibah. Turkey, the US, and other Western powers support the GNU. While the East is under the control of the Tobruk-based House of Representatives and not recognized internationally. But it counts on the support of strongman Khalifa Haftar, leader of the Libyan National Army, and considered by many to be the real power in the region. Egypt, the UAE, and Russia are all supporters of Haftar's militia. The political infighting has left Libya with crumbling and inadequate infrastructure as the players focus on gaining and keeping power. Complicating matters are the ongoing rivalries between militias. Most armed factions draw state salaries, acting as de facto security in semi-official positions, but they ultimately answer to their own commanders. Infighting between rival factions in Tripoli flared up in August in some of the worst violence seen in Libya in years. 55 people were killed in the clashes by the Special Deterrence Force and the 444 Brigade. As of yet, no political leader has been able to bring the militias under tighter government control. All of this makes the country ill-equipped to deal with large-scale natural disasters.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed support for Russia's sacred fight during a summit with President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday that the U.S. warned could lead to a deal to supply ammunition for Moscow's war in Ukraine.
Scrambling into position to catch an historic moment. 2 leaders with many enemies sharing a handshake. "I'm glad to see you," says President Putin. "This is our new Cosmodrome." With translators and security flanking them, Kim Jong-un replies, "Thanks for inviting us during your busy schedule." But that's exactly why the North Korean dictator has come on this unusual VIP excursion of a space base in the Eswatini Cosmodrome in Russia's Far East. The president plays tour guide here, knowing his audience has plenty of what he needs, ammunition for his war in Ukraine. It's been 566 days since the full-scale invasion, with Russian troops reportedly running low. Meanwhile, the autocrat of one of the world's most secretive states wants something in return for his first overseas trip in 4 years: advanced space technology. He's tried and failed twice to launch surveillance satellites this year. As the official meeting begins, reporters are told both countries will cooperate in sensitive areas, with no more detail. Except this from both leaders.
Of course, we need to discuss economic cooperation and humanitarian issues, the situation in the region.
Russia is waging a sacred fight to defend its sovereignty, security interests and justice against the hegemonists. And we have always expressed full and unconditional support for the actions taken by the Russian government. I take this opportunity to affirm that we will always stand with Russia on the anti-imperialist front.
That new, closer relationship after only the second meeting between the leaders was preceded by a warning from the UN and US that any weapons deal will break international sanctions on Pyongyang's arms program. Washington went further, warning North Korea will pay a price if it goes ahead and supplies Russia's war machine.
Russian President Vladimir Putin met on Wednesday with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at Russia's most advanced spaceport amid warnings from the United States and South Korea against a potential arms transfer.
Visiting North Korean leader Kim Jong-un got the royal treatment, including a personal tour by President Vladimir Putin of Russia's most advanced space rocket launch site in that country's Far East. The two leaders reportedly discussed the possibility of sending a North Korean cosmonaut into space, and Kim asked detailed questions about rockets. After the meeting, Putin told Russian state television that there are possibilities for military cooperation with North Korea despite international sanctions. For his part, Kim said he would make ties with Russia his #1 priority, and made clear he supports Russia's invasion of Ukraine, saying, "We have always expressed full and unconditional support for all the measures taken by the Russian government and President Putin." While Putin and Kim toasted their burgeoning military cooperation, the talks raised concerns in Washington. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby had this to say.
No nation on the planet, nobody, should be helping Mr. Putin kill innocent Ukrainians. And if they decide to move forward with some sort of arms deal, well, obviously we'll take the measure of that, and we'll deal with it appropriately.
The meeting also caused concern at the State Department, according to spokesperson Matthew Miller.
I would say it is troubling when you see the Russians talking about cooperating with North Korea on programs that would violate UN Security Council resolutions that Russia itself voted for.
One expert told VOA that North Korea and Russia apparently struck a deal that is a win for them, but troubling for the global order and regional stability.
Yeah, I think this is very significant that they met at a space center, and it's an indication that this is the kind of technology that North Korea wants. Given that its last two spy satellites, satellite launches, both failed, North Korea is in need of such assistance.
Fitzpatrick told VOA that he has no doubt that North Korea will supply artillery shells and anti-tank shells, which will certainly help Russia in Ukraine because it has depleted its arsenal. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said Wednesday that any form of cooperation of any country with North Korea must respect the sanctions regime that was imposed by the Security Council.
The British government has rejected calls to officially label China as a threat to its interests. Several lawmakers have called for a tougher line after it was revealed that a researcher in the British Parliament was arrested on suspicion of spying for Beijing.
British police detained 2 men in March on suspicion of spying for China. The arrests came to light only this week when the Sunday Times newspaper reported that one of the suspects was a researcher in the British Parliament with connections to several senior members of the ruling Conservative Party. In a statement posted online, the researcher, whom VOA is choosing not to name, said he was innocent and claimed he had spent his career trying to educate others about the challenge and threats presented by the Chinese Communist Party. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak raised the incident with Chinese Premier Li Qiang at the recent G20 summit in India and told lawmakers Tuesday he would defend British democracy.
I was emphatic with Premier Li that actions which seek to undermine British democracy are completely unacceptable and will never be tolerated.
China said the allegations of spying were a fabrication.
We urge the UK to stop spreading false information and stop its anti-China political manipulation and malicious slander.
But critics say Britain must go further. Fin Lau is a pro-democracy activist from Hong Kong who now lives in exile in London after fleeing China's crackdown on protests in 2019.
I would say that there is some kind of our lack of coherent approach or even China policy at the moment, especially regarding national security or some kind of threat overseas.
That view has been echoed by several British lawmakers. The former Prime Minister Liz Truss is among Conservative Party members calling on the government to officially recognise China as a threat to Britain. But speaking on a visit to a car factory Monday, Britain's Business Secretary Kemi Badenoch rejected that demand.
We cannot describe China as foes. They are our fourth largest trading partner. There are many businesses, not least of all the very one I'm standing, which are integrated with the Chinese economy. Many jobs are reliant on it.
Lau says that reliance is overstated.
China only accounts for 6.1% of total trade volume in the UK. We should focus on diversifying our trading relationships starting from today.
Meanwhile, both of the suspects arrested in March were released on bail. The police investigation is continuing.
Apple launched its latest iPhone on Tuesday during an event at its California headquarters, highlighting the device's new features such as a USB charging port and a titanium lining. The company is diversifying its supply chain away from China by increasing the number of smartphones made in India.
Is a revolutionary mobile phone.
16 years after Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone to the world for the very first time, Apple unveiled the 15th version of the world's best-selling phone from their headquarters in California on Tuesday. Over 200 million iPhones were sold globally in 2022, making up over half of Apple's 360 billion euros in sales last year. But this launch brought a significant milestone. According to reports, it will be the first time that Indian-made versions of the latest iPhone will be available from launch day. While the vast majority of the global stock will still come from China, it serves to highlight Apple's attempts to move away from its reliance on Chinese-based manufacturers. The company first moved some of its production to India in 2017, and they now produce 7% of its iPhones in the country, a figure they're expecting to increase to 25% by 2025. Narrowing production gaps between its Chinese and Indian iPhone facilities has long been important for Apple. Geopolitical issues coupled with local labour disputes, such as major factory protests last year, has led Apple to look for production alternatives. And the timing couldn't be any better, given a recent rise in Chinese nationalism has encouraged government organisations and consumers alike to drop iPhones in favour of homegrown brands like Huawei.
We begin our sports roundup with the preparations of this year's Zimbabwe Marathon, where the Eswatini Athletics Association is assuring the nation that all rules that will be used have been checked and marked. The race will be held on the 1st of October.
We begin our sports roundup with the much-awaited Zimbabwe Marathon, where the Athletic Association that is in charge of the race proceedings, such as road markings and distances, has assured the nation that indeed the athletes that will be taking part of this year's edition will not have anything to worry about, as everything is set. Athletes who take part of the event will find the roads with proper markings to avoid confusion. The Eswatini National Provident Fund that is in charge of the event has confirmed that Eswatini continue to show interest in the event, with the numbers increasing daily through registration. The marathon will be held on the 1st of October this year. In other news, the Eswatini Boxing Association has revealed that there is a hope for the country to qualify for next year's Olympic Games in France, despite the defeat of trio boxers Thabiso Dlamini, Zweli Dlamini and Veriswa Makayo in the recent Olympic qualifiers held in Senegal. Thabiso Dlamini, who spoke on behalf of the boxers, confirmed their commitment to the task ahead of the Olympic Games in Paris from 26 July to the 11th of August. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Mbabane.
29 minutes after 7, we've come to the end of our English news. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a break.
Bongosi egameni lelibandla letelkhetho nemingcele tingudla ngingusihlalo walo libandla sihlanganyela nesive malangeni lamahle kuhalalisela ingwenyama inkosi yethu inkosi Mswati wesithathu minyakeni lamashumi lasihlanu nakuhlanu kanye nelive longana kundiphethe wethu ukuthi lo lingana nabo netinsuku tengwenyama letingu 55 nananathi sisive seMaswati sina leminyaka ilengu 55 sesikhululekile ngandiphethe. Siyabonga ke bongosi sisahalalisele makhosi ethu nelive ukuthi nebayitolo lekungibona lesithi te basebenta lelive makhosi ayitolo nesive seMaswati sonke sayitolo ngoba lokhu lesesifike lamhla siyasakukhanza lesikuhalaliselako ngilokuchamuka kibo lekubita ke ukuthi ke nathi siMaswati njengekukhonjwa indlela makhosi Nkosi yelive sichubekeni silibeke live libe ngiloko lekungona lesikukhanzile nathi nalokungcono Maswati silibandla lelikhetho nemingcele sisahalalisele makhosi nelive ngandiphethe sijinga siphindze futhi siwabongele makhosi ngemsebenzi losedulo eveni welikhetho sisitengcile tigaba tokuqala lebesikito nyalo ke sekuseleke sigaba lesesisedulu ke ekungisona sona ke lesisitawusiniketa iParliament yethu isinikete futhi emabandla enkundla lekuba ubuchopho ke lobakhiwa induna tetinkundla lekungibona bosihlalo bese ke nabobuchopho bemiphakathi benkundla labakha lobuchopho lelibandla lenkundla lekungilona lelisebenzisana kanye neParliament nahulumende welive leMaswati wonkana bongosi emalanga umuntu akandlulise lokuthi umhla ka-26 we-special voting bese ulandzela ke umhla ka-29 September walolukhetho lelukhulu lukhetho lwesibili lesongilona loluyi-final ngalawo magama amalangeni sikhutha lwandle sibongele live bongosi bayethe wena waphakathi wena ungangezindaba bongosi
Right, it's 35 minutes after 7. Siphinze sikwamukele ehlelweni ngwelo muhle sivedeni naqala ihlelo ukuthi indvuna yaka Commerce Industry and Trade Manqoba Khumalo elangeni layitolo launched the economic study of the contribution of copyright to the Eswatini economy. Kanzike indvuna iphindze unveila ekutheni the Copyright Society Secretariat labayibekile itolo itaba nemsebenzi lomkhulu beke wathi ke it's going to be a huge task for them to transparently work for the tangible benefit of the creative members of the Copyright Society. They will need support here, cooperation of the public as well as the ultimate, they are the ultimate users of copyright works. Let's welcome Dr. Celkolo Dludlu. He is the Intellectual Property Registrar under the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade. Dr. Dludlu, welcome to the program. Sebendi lomkhulu lona sakuvusela nje utasichazela ngoba siyathwala ukuthi indvuna iphinze yaveta lo ukuthi he's commissioning i-Eswatini Copyright Survey. Washo lo ukuthi it seeks to provide a detailed report on how much copyright contributes to the GDP of Eswatini.
Yes, good morning. Morning, Kubabukeli Ekaya. We are quite excited you know, launching the Secretariat. It's a moment that the arts industry particularly was waiting for. We were quite excited about that, and also the study to see the value of copyright, its contribution to the economy of Eswatini. One of the three pillars essentially established of the contribution of copyright. It's to the GDP of the nation, it's to the employment labor force here, and also to my exports, because we, you know, I think for the longest of times, music, we are exporter, but so the study will also touch on that.
Yeah, let us get into some of these pillars. Now, since the labor force, it's quite interesting. We have a lot of Eswatini musical artists, particularly musical artists. I know that this encompasses, it's quite an umbrella of a word, which encompasses other works outside of just music. There's photography, there's software and databases, and but I want to make case in point on music. We've seen a lot of our artists producing good quality music, putting it up on the internet on platforms like SoundCloud, data file host, which are essentially free platforms, Dr. Dludlu. And they don't really get anything in return than the city. This is intellectual property, which essentially should be awarded, you know. Talk to me about this development. You did say pillar labor force.
Okay, yes. My artists, we with regard to the protection of their works.
Okay.
I think previously, I would rather get the exposure, you know, just freely distribute my work. We are saying now, you know, you put a lot of effort into creating something that is copyrightable. Why not get a reward? You know, we are now recognizing that intellectual property is property. You know, why do you give out your assets for free? I think that's the dynamic shift, let's say, with the launch of the society. The society will formally be channeling people to say, rather than give out your work for free, commercialize it. I think society will summarize it's for commercializing of intellectual property work by the creative industry.
Yes, I want us to get into the methodology that you used. You did speak on the fact that it is a world, you know, certified methodology, and how you benchmarked really, and some of the findings. Then because, like I said initially, it's not just music; it's other works as well. Maybe to highlight some of those works and how much they do essentially stand to contribute to our economy.
Okay. In terms of the methodology, maybe it's two parts. The first part, which was let us train, because we got assistance from the World Intellectual Property Organization to train us in how to conduct the study. the Honorable Minister requested technical assistance from them, and they offered. So the model they used previously, because this study, the WIPO methodology, I'll call it that, it's from early 2000s. So it's been done in the other countries. So WIPO would assist countries to actually do the study in their countries. So they usually, or then rather, they would bring in the technical experts. They do the study, bahambe. So when I was selling a snapshot of how copyright contributes to your economy. But now we're saying, okay, let's improve on that. Rather than them coming with their expert, train the IP offices, Lamaveni, to be able to actually conduct the study. So that Stockholm Analog Center periodically, society. 5 years from now, do we see any improvement? So the methodology, so the first part, si traineke, you know, si IP office is a Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade. Besa sisebenta National Statistics Office, because they are the custodians of they are the ones they show how much contribution is from copyright. So nabo but trainee. So we're working hand in hand with nabo. So from the training, the preliminary result, that's what Folak okay, let's highlight it because no copyright axiyo le music, like you said. It's not just music, it's many other things. So we'll study to summarize and for instance what have they found in the other countries. Okay, music will contribute how much to their GDP, for instance. Music contributes, I think, like a percentage, it's a single digit figure.
0.06. I'm actually looking at the brief.
Okay, so 6%. So that's 6%. That's 6%. But then there are other categories of copyright that we usually do not recognize. So that's what part of the study revealed to us, to say there are databases, there is the visual arts now, where they contribute quite significantly. There's photography, there is
radio and television.
Advertising industry, it's quite big, yes. So like radio and TV contributes significantly. So it helps us to see the ecosystem of copyright.
Quite interesting. Quite interesting. And, as you were speaking, I did take a moment to Google how much South Africa's creative industry contributes to their GDP, and it's quite interesting. Design and creative services contributed 51 billion rands in 2020, which is 32% of the country's GDP. That's how much they contribute. 32%, 51 billion rands. You do see that South Africa is not so far from us, but they are in terms of development, of course, but they're right next to us. Benchmarking shouldn't be hard. We see how they are doing in the music industry, in the film industry, in the TV industry. Yes, they may be landslides ahead, but surely we can benchmark and learn a lot from them. We've even gotten opportunities in some of our works, like some of the national festivals that happen in the country. We see other television stations coming here, and we try to see the equipment that they use and the equipment that we use. Sometimes it's just the same equipment. But the fact that they do realize their intellectual property and they have protected it, this is how much money they get to make. 51 billion emalangeni in 51 billion rand, sorry, in 2020. Talk to me about the Secretariat. Really interested in that. We should have visuals of when the Secretariat was being announced yesterday. Some of those faces in Melihlanze is very instrumental in the entertainment industry and creative industry. Talk to me about how it was strategically selected and what they are going to do.
Okay. I think previously the minister introduced the board. The board was responsible for making the selections of the Secretariat. So they took their time to actually go, advertise and go through the candidates. It was a tough competition because it's not just about someone knowing the industry. You have to know the business aspect of it, because as a Secretariat you want to help people make money, commercialize their copyright. So I think his experience spoke on his behalf to say what he has done is scalable to a national platform. So he was the best candidate.
Yeah.
He was the best candidate.
I'm interested in the focused economic contribution of copyright as another pillar that I saw on your brief yesterday. Some of it speaks to, if you'll allow me to read here, in the countries where the quantification of the economic contribution of copyright has been carried out, it was discovered that copyright contribution to GDP ranged from 4.6 to 7.2% for employment, the range being 4.56 to 6.9%. You did speak to GDP, labor force, as well as export. Let's get into that in detail.
Okay. Under the WIPO methodology, part of choosing it is that it's comparable with the other countries. Okay. You use the same methodology so that when you say each GDP, a contribution, your copyright to the GDP, it's 4%, for instance.
Yeah.
You are using the same methodology that they used. I think countries, let's say, Nago Compareka, Nabo, Malawi, Lesotho, Botswana. So that's the average letfolagele in those countries. The thing that for us is to say, okay, are we below? Are we at par with contemporaries as live? You know, because the 4%, that's like kind of the minimum. Other countries longer are actually less developed than us. Who can say contribution of copyright is up to 12% because of the interventions maybe the government to support the industry. So it's at what percent? It helps you to think what can we do as a country to improve where we stand?
Okay.
Yes. So the comparison that's allowed through the WIPO methodology, it's quite significant.
And from the findings, which subsectors did we find that are sectors that we should really look towards leveraging as they stand the highest potential in terms of their contribution?
I think the starting point, particularly with where we are with the Secretariat, it's the music.
Okay.
Because for the longest of time, artists have been saying we are not paid for our music. Now, kunale coincidence we have the new Copyright Act. It's coming to force. So there's the expectation now that people will be paid for their they'll be paid royalties for their music. So that's kind of the first focus subsector.
Yeah.
It's not that we are leaving the other sectors behind.
Music.
Yes.
Which is fair. I mean, even us growing up, we've been listening to a lot of local great music, by the way.
Yes.
We've seen Sands doing amazing yesteryears. We have Uncle Waffles right now, which South Africa wants to claim. And we've had the likes of Psycholution, Kripo Intellectual, Claiming Ground Records, really, Velemsteni. There's a lot of brewing artists as well, like your Sanilos of this world, which surprisingly, a lot of them are under the Antidote Culture stable, which Meli Sands are the executive director. So we do see how strategic you were in selecting the Secretariat. But I'm interested in television because I do work in television. How much potential do we stand, to leverage in terms of GDP contribution?
Okay, it's I think there is a conversation to say part of this so to say a subsection of the study. We want to focus. There is a survey that we wanted to do. The Audio and Visuals Association approached us to say, can we do that study for them? So we are working on
get into that.
Yes.
Hopefully we can invite you again on the show, but I want to highlight all these subsectors for the benefit of the viewer. Under the core copyright industries that you highlighted, you have copyright collecting societies, which have 1%. You have advertising agencies and services standing at 9%. You have visuals and graphic arts standing at 2%. Software and databases, 22%. Maybe before I finish all of them, let's software and databases. What are we talking about?
It's a big one. There are innovators in the country. they are of a high standard. Their work is really of a high standard.
Yeah.
So we're talking about things like that. You know, to create an app, there are databases in there. So it speaks to things like that. You know, you look at companies in the manufacturing industry. There are databases which are quite important for your businesses. The stats that you collect, you know, that's raw data, but then you make databases to actually have something more valuable just from that raw data. So it's quite a lot of things involved in that.
22% accumulating, I'd say, the highest dividend on the GDP contribution under these subsectors, but also there's photography with 2%, radio and television at 15%, motion picture and video at 4%, music standing at 6%, and press and literature 39%. Dr. Kolo, I will definitely invite you again when you do the second survey on the audio and visuals. It should be an interesting one. You're talking about GDP contribution economically for the labor force, for the country's GDP, for exports as well. It is quite important. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Dr. Kolo Lulu, he's the Intellectual Property Registrar under the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade. Here's a quick fact under their survey and under their brief. It speaks to individuals, small and medium-sized businesses that hold formal intellectual properties. They are 4 times more likely to export, 64% more likely to be high growth, 3 times more likely to engage in product innovation than those without intellectual property. Intellectual property intensive businesses pay a minimum of 16% more than those with little or no intellectual property. An interesting development indeed. Even with the newly selected secretariat, which was announced by Commerce, Industry and Trade Minister Mangoba Khumalo yesterday. Let's go for a quick ad break. We'll wrap up the show with Lungelele after the break.
Eswatini Lifestyle is all about inspiration, drive, and swag. Eswatini Lifestyle is informative and fun while covering all aspects of life, be it people, places, and trends in the kingdom of Eswatini. We got you covered. The focus is on the quality of life. Eswatini Lifestyle will spark your interest. Catch Eswatini Lifestyle every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Eswatini TV, Sibugo Semaswati.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. We'll give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the kingdom of Eswatini, and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget, because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
Alright, so 7 minutes before 8 o'clock. Ngaphambi kokuthi siliphethe nje ihlelo lomhla ekseni. We thank you for joining us. I think nje lokubalekile sifiso nyalo lokusematheni vele ngeyindzaba yelkhet for dokumela ukuthi on the 26th of September kutabe kunayo ke i-special voting. Akuvoti noma ngangibani special voting. Njengoba vele nje ABC ukuthi you need to have an admission letter ukuthi uvumelekile ukuthi vote special voting is particularly kubanga security forces, amaphoyisa, amasoja,
essential workers,
health workers, entertainment. Yes, and those so
I think it's very important to clarify lo special ngoba umuntu lomunye ngathi ashotsina siko special. It's not the connotation so we interpret as SWAT. Special is an English word nalo apply exactly as what it means in this context. It's going to be selected individuals who will not particularly be able to vote on the day that has been designated for the tentative official day, which is on the 29th, I believe, Lulu.
Yeah, it's the 29th of September. We're still waiting for government to officially announce if it's going to be a holiday, public holiday or not. But if I'm a public holiday, and it'll be noting also that it's on a Friday, so it's highly possible that it will be a public holiday. So yes, we're still awaiting government to make that official announcement. But nje kukumuta ukuthi vote as usual by 7 a.m. in the morning.
7 a.m. early in the morning.
Yeah, ngiyacela nje umsebenzi on Friday, on Saturday kuphuma ama results. Kutaba nje ukuphisitela kakhulu sifiso lapha eveni. Bamvusa bamela ama results ukuva ukuthi kuphumelele bani kuphi. Thina ke sikhona sengumsakade Eswatini TV sitaba sikuniketa yonke information leyo, as we'll be broadcasting live the elections 2023 from early in the morning on Friday. So sikulethela nje onke ama updates.
On another one, it's an interesting one, because we're being asked by people on the roads at saying, how can Senisbega Pinzaba Mhlanga, it has not been announced officially yet. At Seni Itaubanini data Mhlanga or Kubegele Sfunzeni Sashisel Kotwaje, see at follow a good Utaubakona no Maganjad. So I must swati la Tanza, Masiko Ao, Aganga Besaga, Mala Nomage, Sega Bangati, Gangumhlanga Ubekon, Tabakon.
Definitely.
But there are other developments that have, come into the way now. In terms of, the country's overall development, we do hear with the United Nations General Assembly will be taking place really soon. So we should be expecting that as well. And Eswatini TV will be giving you the latest updates with regards to that development as well. So it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. We're expecting the United Nations General Assembly, the national elections, as well as Umhlanga. It's going to be interesting indeed.
I think another important thing is so that we are also pushing as Eswatini TV is the payment of TV licenses as we're approaching December, which is the deadline, 31st December. Also encouraging Maswati to pay their TV licenses. I think Nikbonile Njebuhle Bekbatala TV license, a trade fair, where one lucky winner won a 55-inch smart TV. So you yourself could also stand a chance go to win great prizes. Mangabe Eswatini TV, memetela go to win prizes la manyela. So siyawubhadala umthelo balekile so bhadalele ukuthi sibukela iSwatini TV so bhadalela because we own these devices, the fire cards yona le TV, ama decoder bosigojana bethu nalamanye ama devices. So yes, the deadline is approaching 31st December, so you are encouraged to pay your TV license, which is only 180 emalangeni per year.
Yeah, Gansuke Kusasa Lungalele, we do invite you once again to join us for the last day of Kusile Breakfast Show this week, where we'll be talking to, I believe, Inectas.
Yes, the national competition is approaching this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. It's very close. So with one of the students, and also we'll talk about as always. We are to
so we do have the revenue service coming through tomorrow, as well as Inectas coming through tomorrow, but we will also have sports headlines as 20 yin lokhamba embili etinzabeni tetemidlalo sibuka lona liviki lesisuka kulo nempela sonto lesitawu ungena kuyo. Fabrice Msonera, our in-house sports journalist and analyst, will join us to unpack that and further that development. Otherwise, we've come to the end of our program for the day. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's a goodbye from myself and Lulu.
Ibandla letelukhetfo nemingcele Elections and Boundaries Commission bathi sasive kutsi kuvota ngalokukhetsekile special voting kutawuba mhla tingemashumi lamabili nesitfupha kulesetulu 26 September 2023. Kanti lukhetfo lolukhulu lona lutawubanjwa mhla tingemashumi lamabili nemfica kulesetulu 29 September 2023. Ngete ngasala nasakha live letfu.
Ngisifiso mina ngokambethe Sibongo. Ngokudalwa ngidalelwe Lambabane la Mangwaneni. But ekhaya usemafutheni. Ngidalwa nguRuth wakaMpamali bana Samuel Mbethe.